All right, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of The Teardown. My name is Jeff Gluck, along with Jordan Bianchi. Jordan is at Bristol Motor Speedway in the depths of the basement there, and I'm at home in Colorado. It was Jordan's turn this week, and Jordan got to be at the last great Coliseum to see the death of the Ty Gibbs hate watch, because Ty Gibbs has now won his first career NASCAR Cup Series race after 130, I think is 131st start.
131st start. Yep.
131st start, a little bit longer than people anticipated, but something that we felt was, on its way. Certainly, you could see it. I think this is his sixth straight top six finish in a row. He's moved all the way up to fourth in points. And he was getting to probably his best track in a place where he already led 200 laps last summer, a place where he's very comfortable, a place where even, earlier in his career when he wasn't as competitive on a bunch of other tracks, he was still good at Bristol, and he's able to put it all together today. And not just that, Jordan, but hold off Ryan Blaney on fresher tires in overtime, lining up on a restart after former Joe Gibbs Racing driver Kyle Busch had brought out a caution and retaliating against Riley Herbst from an earlier incident in the race. At least that's what it looked like. And it looked like that could have cost Ty Gibbs everything, but Ty Gibbs kept his composure. He earned it. He won it straight up, deserved to win today, and did everything he was supposed to do. So he is now a Cup Series race winner. Jordan, what do you make of that?
Unflappable in the closing laps. Would have been really easy to overdrive, make a mistake. You've got Ryan Blaney there. There's Kyle Larson's in the mix. They have fresher tires. Larson has 2. Blaney's got 4. You've got a late race restart. All of these different things. It would have been easy to crave into that, or cave into that pressure. And instead, he handles it really well. That last lap especially. So Blaney's there, doesn't make any errors, drives a perfect line. And everything else that's going on over the last 6 months and over really the last few years, because really ever since 2022 and that year he had in what was then the Xfinity Series, the Brandon Jones incident and all of that stuff, he has had a lot of pressure, a lot of people pointing fingers at him, a lot of people saying he doesn't deserve this and he shouldn't be in this spot. He has come through that, and he has shown glimmers of this potential. And it is now, after all of that, it now seems like he's been putting this together this year. 6 straight top 10 finishes, which is 5 or 6, which is a career best for him. He's running up front consistently, leading laps. This was building, and you picked it smartly that he was going to win today. It was a great pick, and it just felt like everything was kind of getting into an order. And you can sit there and say, hey, is he motivated by the other stuff going on? Is he trying to prove his detractors wrong? But this is also a young driver. Like, he's 23 years old. I mean, people mature at different ages. And you mentioned the start, 131 career starts. It's a little longer than maybe people thought, but that 100 number is still that sweet spot of when drivers tend to win their first career races. Larson, Blaney, Elliott, Byron, they were all in that realm. And so this is kind of following that trajectory. And now it's going to be interesting to see how long he can keep this up for. This doesn't seem like it's a flash in the pan. This seems like it's a young driver who's now finally mature and handling things around him well, and is now coming into his own.
There's that point early on in the race where he was up in the top 5. Things seemed to be going well, and he immediately sort of went backwards, right? He had qualified decent. He's going to have a good day. Toyotas look like they're going to be strong. He drops to 14th in the first 15 laps of the race. And I think earlier in his career, he would have pressed and lost patience there, maybe overdrove it, maybe got himself in a little bit of trouble there. He was able to, maintain his composure. You said he was unflappable. Here's the thing that impressed me, and I get that this is partly a commentary on the tires, and we'll talk about that. But ultimately, Chase Elliott spins out with 23 laps to go. It's like, okay, what do you do here, right? And he immediately is saying, I'd really like to get the track position. The 2 fastest cars of the day, essentially, Ryan Blaney and Kyle Larson, do come down pit road to get tires. Blaney gets 4, Larson gets 2. Ty Gibbs stays out. So ultimately, Ty Gibbs, his last pit stop was 95 laps earlier than Ryan Blaney. So he had 95 lap older tires, and he was able to even before the last incident that made it go to overtime. It looked like he was probably going to win. It looked like he had held off Blaney. Blaney was going to have a tough time because Blaney had bobbled, and then you get the overtime restart, and it's like, oh, now it's a head-to-head duel, and he's got tires right next to him. So this is probably it. And yet he still was able to do it. So, I mean, that was a really, say what you want about Ty Gibbs. I know a lot of people got strong feelings on him, but that was a really impressive drive.
It was. And I think that's what people tend to overlook in all of this is you go back to 2021. Remember that first Xfinity Series win he had at Daytona? People overlook the talent because of everything else, because he's the grandson of the team owner, because people think he's entitled and feel that way, and maybe doesn't give the press the best, answers to questions and these kind of things. And some of this he brings on himself. Let's not pretend that he doesn't. But people tend to overlook that a little bit. He can drive a race car. He's a very good race car driver, and at times has looked like someone who could be potentially a great race car driver. And we're starting to actually now see that. And I think that's the thing. And for him, though, it's going to be able to do this not just not just occasionally, but you drive for Joe Gibbs Racing, regardless of who owns that team or not. You have to prove yourself. And you can even make a case like you have to prove yourself even more. It's like being the quarterback of the coach on the high school football team. Like, you not only have to be better than the backup, you got to be double better than the backup. And that's really what Ty Gibbs needs to be. And at times he hasn't been. He hasn't handled that well. But when he does handle things well, when he does harness his emotions, when he does have a good perspective and maturity about things, he's capable of running and outrunning just about anybody in that field.
I think there's a lot there, and this might take a little while to respond to what you just said, but you talked about how he's brought a lot on himself and his image and things like that. I think in a different universe, think what a meaningful emotional victory this is for NASCAR, like one of those feel-good moments. Instead, there's sort of like this, people aren't sure what to do with it. Because here's a guy who, look, I mean, he has the most triumphant moment of his career in 2022. His father, hours later after celebrating this, passes away unexpectedly in his sleep. You have, and that was after his uncle, who was the other heir apparent, to JGR, had already passed away in a tragic circumstance, right? So you have the two people who are supposed to carry on the torch of this family-run team. This is their only business, and they've passed away. So you have this young guy. He's trying to make his way through it. He's not getting the success he wants. Meanwhile, his mother has to shift from her real estate business, take on a leadership role with the team that she never envisioned or imagined at all. And, she's trying to get her hands in this. Joe Gibbs is in his 80s. He's still getting there earlier than anybody, staying later than anybody. He's having to do so much more to carry on, what his sons, the load that his sons were going to be taking. And then you have this guy who finally breaks through and wins, this kid, right? Age 23. His mom's there, right? His mom's crying, gives a checker flag to his mom. His mom's in the car. He's pointing at the sky. He's saying, I wish my dad, could have seen this kind of thing. Like in so many other circumstances of NASCAR, that is like one of those great NASCAR moments. But instead, everyone, so much of the fan base feels like they don't even really understand this guy. We don't know this guy. And the same is true for the media, right? We're responsible. We're tasked with telling these guys stories that the fans understand who these guys are. But objectively, we don't really know Ty Gibbs. He is the all of the drivers. He's the one that keeps us furthest away. Now we'll occasionally get these flashes, like you and I on media day, right? Like we do this media day live stream. He comes in at Daytona. It's great. Like we had these great conversations. You're like, wow, this is cool.
A few years ago, and then playoff media day.
that one too was great. Like we had great conversations. You know, you talk about art, music, all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
You're thinking, okay, there's something here. But then when you try to replicate that at the track or whatever, or put in for interviews, right? Like he doesn't do the interviews. Like he just it's hey, not interested in doing that, right? And you hear it after the race today. Says he doesn't have any social media on his phone right now. You ask about the detractors. Again, it's I don't care. Hey, they can see what they want. I'm just here to do my thing. And while that's perfectly acceptable for him, it's so different than what we're used to seeing from NASCAR drivers. Because most NASCAR drivers are like, hey, I have to put myself out there and show my personality so I can get sponsorship, so I can build my brand, so I can be likable with the fans. And if I'm likable with the fans, companies will want to support me. Companies will want to back me. And then it'll all work together. The synergy will be all there. He doesn't care about that. Yeah. It's not a concern to him. He's got the sponsor. He's got the team. So, and he just chooses, oh, I'm not going to do any of the other stuff. I don't care. So we haven't really been able to tell his story because we don't really know him. Right. And I thought Matt Weaver asked a couple good questions in the post-race news conference along those lines of like, you know, Coach Joe Gibbs, tell us about your grandson. Right. And he tried to ask Ty as well, but Ty's just like, hey, I'm just going to kind of do my thing. I'm going to kind of ride bikes. And he still doesn't want to give you that. Now, maybe that'll change over the course of time, right? Like maybe, hey, he's 23 and he's really been sheltered or something. And maybe he'll grow into it and get more comfortable showing that. Or maybe he just never does. But I think what we saw here today in terms of like this big moment that some fans aren't going to be able to wrap their arms around is because we just don't really know who the guy is.
No, I mean, everybody's kind of kept at an arm's length. And that's where the issues he's had, you know, you go back to that, you know, his father dying. That was the same week, by the way, where he crashed his teammate and cost his teammate a spot in the championship four and to win a race that Ty didn't need to win, right? And so it's those kind of moments and those kind of things that he creates for himself that you don't need to. And that gives your critics ammunition. And I'm probably going over my skis here when I say this, but it feels like when the critics fire at him, he retracts and it gives him more, hey, this is why I don't open up because of this. And then when he does something, he has another misstep, he's going to get more bullets. And it's this vicious cycle, right? And it's part of it. And, you know, he doesn't have to. And it's almost to a point where, because of your point, like he doesn't need the sponsors really. He drives for his own, you know, drives for his grandfather and everything. It's almost like you'd just rather have him go completely heel and just say, listen, you don't want to open up and be yourself and show people who you are. Just be the biggest bad guy out there. Just own it. Say you're going to wreck people. Say you're not going to apologize. Like, own it. You're going to be an aggressive driver who does this because that's who you've shown. Then that's fine. Then just completely own it and don't try to do this oh shucks kind of thing. And it's, you know, but again, like I also go back to the fact he's 23 years old. He's been through a lot, man. Like he lost his father, you know, like who he was so close to and who was the one person, I shouldn't say is one person, but really was one of the biggest people in his life who held him accountable, who held his feet to the fire. And when he had missteps, you know, the Brandon Jones thing, walked him around the shop and made Ty apologize to the employees of the team, you know, and that kind of thing. And you lose that person in your life suddenly at that age. I don't know how I would have handled that. You know, I don't know. I don't think I would have handled it well. And that's tough. And you got to do this in front of everybody as well. And you're racing in one of the most competitive form of motorsport, arguably the most competitive form of motorsport out there. And it's hard. And it's going to chew people up. So I get it to some degree, but it's just going to be interesting to see how this evolves and if other people kind of start to embrace it. And I'll say, I you know, quickly peruse social media a little bit. I was surprised by the number of people who are like happy for him. Honestly, I really expected it was going to be, oh, Ty, you know, a lot of the comments that you would expect. And I'm not saying they weren't there. They were. But there were a lot more congratulations type things, way to go, you know, that kind of thing, that people were impressed or happy for him than I ever anticipated.
Well, I mean, the thing is, like, I think that you know, we don't really get a sense of what the garage thinks of somebody until they're in circumstances like this, because you saw the number of drivers that went to victory lane. I think you were in victory lane. Is that right?
I was there briefly. Yeah, but I followed Blaney there.
So, I mean, I saw obviously the JGR guys come over and stuff like that. You said Blaney went. I saw Daniel Suarez went up there and they had a nice moment. They showed that on TV. There was sort of like a parade of drivers who went up there to congratulate him. Now, if that was somebody that they all didn't like and it was just like, I don't, first win or not, I don't know that we see that. So I think that he has earned the respect with the guys racing enough. But again, it's like he got asked about that twice in the press conference afterwards. Hey, what does that mean to you that you have like the respect of your peers and stuff? He's like, yeah, I don't really, it's cool, but they respect me. I respect them. I don't really care. It was the same kind of thing. Like kept coming back to like, yeah, I don't really care. Like, or like, what does this mean to you? Does this validate your career now? Yeah, no, I don't really care. It doesn't really do anything. It doesn't change anything. I could win one win. I could, have 5 more wins, maybe not. It's just sort of like, and so it just makes it hard to understand. Well, what makes this guy tick? What does drive him? Because we're, like we've been all projecting, okay, all this stuff comes out in the lawsuit that Chris Gabehart said.
That's the other part of it too.
Right. Like this has been the spotlight and he skips the meetings. Now, the one thing is he corrected in the post-race news conference. He says, hey, people are saying false things that, I haven't missed the meetings kind of thing. Right. So that's one thing he cared to correct, but the rest of the part is just like, yeah, I don't really care. People say what they want. And so we don't even know if this is, we say, hey, is it driving you? Is this a chip on your shoulder that you've been in the spotlight? You seem to be running better. Is this a motivating factor for you? He won't say that. So, it's just sort of like, we don't really know this dude. And so we hope to find out more. But in the meantime, we know he's a pretty good race car driver, don't we? Yeah. He's running pretty well. He's 100 points out of the points lead, 4th in points. Again, 6 straight top 6 finishes. So gets his first win now. And, I think it's an important moment for him.
Really is. And Blaney, I think to your point about this is outside of, the incident with Denny Hamlin last year at New Hampshire. And he had a little bit of a run-in with Logano his rookie year, which is part of being a rookie and figuring it out. Like, unless I'm completely being absent-minded here, I don't think he's really had any, feuds or really had any bad blood that he hasn't overdriven. He hasn't had a lot of aggressive moves and really anger other drivers. The kind of driving that really irked a lot of people in 2022 largely has subsided. That's kind of gone away. And I think that helps too. As you're trying to earn respect in the garage, you're not shoving people out of the way every week and doing, stupid things. You're not being like some other drivers out there and being uber aggressive. And I think that goes a long way. And Blaney afterwards on pit road was like, he tipped his hat to him and just said, man, he drove a great race. He earns this. He deserved it, And I think that helps a lot when you have that, because whether they like you personally or not, they at least respect you that you're not running them over every week and you're not doing things on the racetrack that you shouldn't be doing, and you can get away with it because your grandfather owns the race team.
How different would this podcast be right now if Ryan Blaney had beaten him on the restart because Kyle Busch wrecked Riley Herbst to deny not only a monster car, but to deny the guy that replaced him
successor, yep,
his first career victory as he was on his way to a win. Whoa, that would have been holy crap. I mean, like, geez, talk about the whole conversation for the next week.
Kyle, I can just imagine on the drive home, Kyle he's driving home. I don't know if he's flying or driving, but let's just say he's driving. That 3-hour drive home, he's like sitting there just laughing to himself the entire way. Just smiling. Like, I got Herbst back because Herbst did me dirty, and I got Ty back because of all of that stuff. And I just imagine, maybe I'm wrong, but I can just imagine Kyle Busch like laughing and enjoying that.
Is that fair game, what Kyle Busch did there? I mean, we talk about intentional wrecking and stuff like that. I mean, that caused a potentially race altering caution. Now, he did get turned by Riley Herbst early in the race, so I guess he can go back and do that. But
this is the problem. This is where the gray area is. You want the rough and tumble. You want the eye for the eye. You want the short track racing. He did me dirty. I got one coming back. He's got one coming back thing. But you're going to have moments like this. And so where is that line? Like, I honestly don't have an issue with what Kyle Busch did. I mean, because that's part of the ethos that NASCAR is. But to your point, the ramifications from that are, pretty significant. And you just potentially cost somebody a win and all of these other things. I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you police that. I don't know if maybe it's as simple as, hey, in the moment, NASCAR just says, hey, we're penalizing you a lap. We're not going to park you for the race. It's not going to be this big penalty, but, just to try to have some semblance of law and order, we're just going to park you for a lap here, but we also don't want to completely penalize you because we don't want to go against our ethos.
Yeah. I mean, look, it seems like it's fair game in terms, as long as it's not an unsafe right rear hook type of thing where people go, okay, now you can't put somebody in danger. But I mean, it's a short track and all that stuff, but just like if that had cost somebody their first career win when they were about to win the race, oof, that's a tough one to live with. So
you can't have both ways. Like, and I don't know how you do that. And that's the thing. If you want guys to use bumpers and do all of these things, like, there are going to be ramifications from this we're uncomfortable with that are, that's just part of it. You almost just have to accept it.
Well, you mentioned Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney had the fastest car according to Auto Racing Analytics today. And even Kyle Larson, in a blunt Larson moment on TV after the race, says, well, no, yeah, I mean, Blaney was way faster. If his pit crew hadn't kept, having slow pit stops all day, I wouldn't have been leading so much. So,
so we should be maybe like everybody should be sending like a thank you letter to the 12 team and like, hey guys, really appreciate all the problems you had on pit road. You made the race more compelling watching Blaney come back. Otherwise, Blaney would have just stomped the field, and it would have been a Kyle Larson like last year. At least it was this year. It was just like it was some drama to it.
Yeah, it was honestly, for me, I was starting to categorize it as, because we talked about, we've seen 3 races recently where the best car of the day had to overcome problems and then ultimately won. And we said, well, it could have been a whole different race if they didn't have to actually work their way back through the field. And I was thinking, man, this could be another one where Blaney keeps having to overcome issues. But, now it's a real problem for the 12 team. I mean, well, it was before, but yeah, it was before. But I mean, this is really, I mean, Larry Mack had that stat during the race.
Yeah.
Amazing stat where he had said, I think it was coming into this race, had lost 86 spots on pit road this season, which was 30 spots more than anybody else had lost. And that was after 7 races. Obviously there's been loose wheels, there's been all sorts of stuff. But I mean, I don't know what you do. This is the really kind of thing that gets in somebody's head, with the pit crew, and it becomes the butt of jokes. I mean, you saw NASCAR Chasm's thing where he had a dog with a bunch of spots on that. And then it said after a 12-team pit stop, and it was a dog with no spots on it, losing a bunch of spots. The genius that NASCAR Chasm is. Yeah. But
by the way, NASCAR Chasm's birthday was the other day. Just want to wish him happy birthday. Dear friend of ours both. So happy birthday, Dave.
How sweet of you. But yes, anyway, I'm sure if you're the 12 team, you're not wishing him happy birthday.
No,
but they have to know. They have to know how bad this is.
Like, they know. There's no denying it. Like, they know. And go back to Martinsville. Ryan Blaney was talking to the media, and I was asking questions about this a little bit. And he's like, listen, I get it. I'm trying not to be critical. We're trying to work through this a little bit. And we have to give these guys live reps, though. He's like, listen, at some point, these guys have got to be out on pit road, and they've got to get used to being in action. Otherwise, they're never going to get acclimated to it. And I get that, but also that said, there's a different way to get them acclimated than having them be on a guy who is a championship contender, who should be winning almost every, who's in the mix to win every single race. You can put them with a different team where there's less pressure and let them get their reps that way. This can't continue to happen. Like, the thing with Blaney is it didn't really cost him the win today, I don't feel like. But it's still, you're leaving points on the table. You're making things harder than they need to be. And Christopher Bell's a perfect example of that today, of what happens when you get behind and you have to press, and you're trying to make up spots because of your mistake or someone else's mistake. And the next thing you know, your race is over. We saw that with Bubba Wallace at Darlington, and you have to execute. You can have one bad stop. You can't continually, every time you come down pit road, be a driver and basically have your fingers crossed going, please don't screw up, please don't screw up, please don't screw up. It can't be. And that's the thing, is like, now we're basically applauding them. Hey guys, way to go. You only lost like 1 or 2 spots instead of 5 or 6 like you have been. It's to a level where you have to do something. Something needs to change. This can't continue.
Well, and you're right. Let's just be clear. I don't think the pit crew had nothing to do with actually the outcome of this race, because it was the strategy call, right? I mean, it was the call from Ty Gibbs and his team to say, hey, we're going to stay out here. Ryan Blaney took 4 tires, and it could have worked, but the tires were different, right? Like, I mean, Goodyear came with a tire that wasn't so temperature sensitive after a couple times in recent years where obviously it was totally unpredictable and everybody just was like, oh my gosh, just a few degrees of temperature swings here. But this tire, while it did lay rubber, it sure was hard. And so, you saw Todd Gilliland take the 2 tires at one point, and that really worked out for him. Josh Berry and Chase Elliott at one point, but Josh Berry really was able to stay up there after that for
he got
a little bit. Yeah. And then obviously Ty Gibbs wins the race by staying out on 95 lap older tires than the car that he lined up right next to in overtime. So, did Goodyear go too far here on, making the tire? It's obviously a very narrow thing for them, but did they go too far in this other direction this time?
I mean, I would say so. I think there's more of a happy medium. I don't think we need what we had last fall or what we had 2 years ago in this race, but I also don't like what we saw today. I would like to see more wear. I would like tires management to be more of a thing. I don't know how you do that, but it doesn't seem like anybody really has a grasp of how to do that. It feels like it has to be some variation of one extreme or the other, because any tweak in the weather or the stuff you put on the track or this or all these different factors, next thing you know, boom, guess what? This is a crazy race. I mean, I go back to a year ago. The morning of this race a year ago, everybody in the garage was like, okay, this is going to be crazy today. This is going to be wild. Tires are going to be everything. And guess what? 20 laps in the race, everybody's like, oh, no, we're good. And go back to last fall. No one thought it was going to be like that. And it did. So I don't know. I think this is the most confounding track in NASCAR, where you just have no idea what to expect going into this. This isn't a Daytona or Talladega situation, because you know what to expect. They're going to run in packs. They're going to wreck. It's how it is. It is what it is. But you come here, you don't know if you're going to see somebody lead 400 laps and feel like they could run the same set of tires the entire race, or they're going to have to pit every 30 laps, and this is going to be a tire management race. You just have no idea. And what I've really come to this weekend on this, and I'm sorry I'm being long-winded here, is I would like to see a Bristol race without them adding stuff to the racetrack. Like, I feel like, from the conversation I've had with people, I feel like we've crossed that threshold. We don't need that anymore. It doesn't do any good. It's counterintuitive in a lot of ways. And let's try that and then work from that base to figure out what we can do on the tires. Because I just think that the adhesive that is added to the track is not working how it's intended. And it's actually, I think, hurting it in some respects.
Well, I mean, the problem was you had that era where everyone just ran the top single file basically. And like, you really couldn't make passes then because you couldn't really get by anybody on the top. And, it was too hard for anybody. I mean, the bottom was like, you couldn't even go down there. So, but I'm torn on it because I get that it's sort of, it migrates to the top eventually. There's no way you could reapply and just keep it on the bottom, have a halftime break. But, it's like, I don't know. I guess first, before to answer that question, everybody's got to figure out what kind of Bristol race they want to see.
That's
do you want a racy Bristol race where there's multiple lanes and multiple grooves, or are you trying to recreate old Bristol where it's around the bottom and that's the only way to do it, and you move somebody out of the way, and that's why people came and sold out for 30 years or whatever?
You can't do that. Everything is different. Driver etiquette is different. The car is different. Tires are different. Engineering of this car. Engineers are smarter. Drivers are everything. You can't replicate that exactly. And so that's the thing. And like you'd sit there and say,
you could
go back to the cars they were in 30 years ago. Like, you can't.
No, because look at the start of the race. You had.
It's not even. Go ahead.
What you would have to do is you'd have to have like a Zamboni, like halftime break or periods at the stage breaks where you bring out the PJ1 truck and you spray it again.
But that's not good. We saw the truck race. You watched the truck race on Friday night. It was bad because all they did was hug the bottom. And the old Bristol everybody wanted to see, where you had only, people hug the bottom, and the only way to pass people was to nudge it. The truck race is an example. That doesn't always work. I do want to say something here in defense of Goodyear, and then in Goodyear, but just kind of this. The track did widen out today. There was a multiple groove race, and I think we're going to probably differ on this a little bit. I think this was much better than anticipated. I think expectations going into this were so low after what transpired Friday night in the truck race and how the first 285 laps of yesterday's O'Reilly race went. I think the expectations were really low. And this was better than I anticipated in terms of the track widening out, in terms of actually people being able to pass, which was really surprising to me because that was a huge issue in this race a year ago.
Well, I mean, I don't think it was, when you look at the good race poll with the next gen car here, except for those 2 tire wear races, the other 4 previous next gen races with this with Bristol, the highest one was 61.6. So the fans have not liked this car at Bristol. Now the first crazy spring tire wear race in 2024 got 87.3%. Then last fall's night race with more tire wear got 80.6. But again, the other ones have been really low, and a couple of them have been, I think, in the 20%.
There was a 20. Last year's was 20.
Yeah. So you have two in the 20s. Last spring's race was 20.1%, the one that Larson dominated. And then the night race that Larson dominated was 27.2. So fans have not enjoyed this for the most part. But so from that standpoint, I think this was better. I just don't know what it's going to be. So first of all, to recap here, Big Joe Wall helped me with this. I just want to pull this up because we've gotten the request. So for Martinsville, it was 49.2. I won that one because I guessed 55. Chase Briscoe guessed 60.1, and you guessed 75.
Horrible guess.
A bit off on that one.
Officially put to bed, by the way, the Chase Elliott effect. That is dead and buried. That is never going to come into consideration ever again.
Well, it still might have been an effect, but it would have been even lower.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
But anyway, so it's now 4-4 between you and me. Chase Briscoe still. Or Chase still trying to get on.
Is he done? Like, is he just going to give up? Like,
no, he has already submitted his guess. I have it right here.
Wow.
So he's on it. I have my guess in mind already, but I want to give you a chance. I know you haven't had a chance to process it as much. So,
no, I thought a lot about this.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, I'm sure you asked all your friends and all that stuff.
I'm sorry that I'm sorry. I'm not going to apologize for having friends. I'm not going to apologize for having people in my life who care about me and are invested in my success and well-being. Excuse me. I'm sorry.
All right.
Can I just hang on? We got time. Hey, don't rush. Can I ask you? I feel like this might be the hardest race to pick in the history of the Good Race poll.
That's an exaggeration, but I understand where you're coming from because the Ty Gibbs effect is unknown.
Yeah, the race, the tires, the type. Let me put it this way. I'm having a really hard time in the moment thinking of a race right now that was harder to put my head around of what people are going to say about this. Because of the winner, because of the tires, because of Bristol, and that it's just the history here, recent history here. This is one of those things I wish I knew what you were going to guess because that would totally influence my vote. I'm gonna say 70.
Interesting. Okay. So I have 62.
Okay.
And I'm basing that on, as I said, the previous highest next gen was 61.6. So I'm going 62. I think it's very challenging because obviously, the Ty Gibbs factor, I think a lot of people don't feel super great about it. Some will embrace it for sure,
Yeah.
but some people are just like anti-Ty Gibbs. So could that have an effect, right? Number two, I think the first, 300, 350 laps of this race were not what people were looking for the most part. Now you were going to have a good battle toward the end, and it got good and interesting. And then the cautions came out and all that stuff too. But I just don't know if that's going to be able to save it. And then I think the other factor, Jordan, here is that people tend to take out their anger that old Bristol is not what it was, or that they tend to take it out on the poll. And unless if you're not going to give them old Bristol, they're not going to vote for what they're seeing now. So that's why I have it on the lower side. Chase Briscoe is going 81% here.
Oh, Chase.
So
we got to get him like a console.
In full disclosure, his initial guess was 84.7, and he asked me if I thought that was crazy high. And so I explained.
Hang on. I'm sorry. Chase Briscoe's soliciting feedback from people as he puts a guess.
I think we agreed that we can throw him a bone.
Oh, it's okay for Chase to do it, but God forbid I do it. Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's great. Losing. He's 0 for 8.
That's great.
We don't want him to quit. Do we want him to quit or not?
I just want fairness, Jeff.
Let's try to help the guy out.
Just want fairness.
Anyway, he said 84.7, but he's like, is that crazy high? So I explained that here's some of the factors. And I said, if you want to change your guess, fine. If not, I'll just go with that. And he still went 81. So he only lowered it a little bit. But I do agree with you. I think it's too high for Mr. Briscoe.
When you lose on Jeopardy, they have a consolation prize in the back room for you. They give you a gift certificate or some book that you're never going to read. We need to have a nice consolation gift for Chase Briscoe. Thanks for participating. You can pick up your consolation gifts in the back room.
He's still got time. I mean, it's just like Bowman, right? If he puts together a great string, you never know what could happen. There's 18 regular season races to go after this. So
that ain't happening.
There's
but you know
time.
what? It's just, it ain't happening.
All right.
Maybe it's because of Logano and he just gets hot in the playoffs.
I mean, he's only down by 4, essentially, right?
Just going to start chipping away. He's going to be down by 5 here in a minute.
Well, he's going to be down by 5. You're right. Sorry, Chase. I mean, we could be, maybe we're totally wrong.
I know.
The guy that gets 75 for Martinsville right here. So
yeah. In retrospect, I'm mad at that. I hate myself for that. I totally could.
That's what you hate yourself for?
There's a lot of reasons I hate myself, man. It's a long list right now. My therapist is well aware of that. Okay, there's a lot of we don't have enough time.
You're working through that. That's just one of your issues. Okay.
I think you could win. I mean, listen, put this way. I wouldn't be shocked if it's in the 40s.
No.
I mean, you're gonna get on me because this is what you do because you live for this. But I had people texting me during the race this is the worst race ever, 20%, and they're bad mouthing this, and I'm like, okay, so I mean, this could easily be 30, 40s. I don't think it's going to be that low, but it could be. I think it could easily be on the other side of your number, and you're just going to win by default.
Yeah, I honestly feel pretty good that you guessed that much higher. I was braced for lower, but yeah, we'll see. But look, I'm wrong a lot. Anyway, Kyle Larson, it would have been lower had Kyle Larson led another 400 laps like he did in those 2 races we talked about with the 20% ones that race got. But ultimately he says he finished 3rd with a 3rd place car. Man, what you think that's?
I just had a friend of mine text me and then they said, you should have went with 20%.
Oh, okay. Well, but look, I as much as it looked like we were going to stay, okay, well, Larson's finally won now for the first time in almost a year. That's in the past. Hendrick is still, I think there's some cause for concern here still. I mean, yes, Chase Elliott won Martinsville, but Larson is amazing at this track. And yes, he did lead a bunch of laps today, 284 laps, but
won the first two stages of the year too.
When he's ultimately like, yeah, we didn't have enough, or didn't feel like he was really close, that close. And then you look at the other Hendrick cars, right? Like Chase Elliott wasn't having a great day. Then spun out, finishes 22nd. William Byron, what's the explanation here? He had to start at the back. Okay, you think, all right, well, maybe you go lap down stage one, but he'll be able to overcome that. I mean, he's William Byron. He's in a Hendrick car. He'll be fine. And he finishes 5 laps down in 30th. For why? What? I don't understand. What was wrong with them? They were just that bad. It was a Logano type situation.
Yeah. You got bad. You have a bad day. You picked a bad day to have a bad day, and it happens. I mean,
that's bizarre, though.
I mean, it's also bizarre that Logano was out to lunch at Darlington like that. But you are going to have these races where you just don't have it, and when you start in the back here, and you don't feel like you have speed, you're in for it. And now what is interesting with this race is it's really hard to take this race and say, well, because they ran bad at Bristol, and they're going to run here, they're going to run bad at X, Y, and Z, because this Bristol is in a lot of ways its own beast. I think, to me, if you're Hendrick, you've got work to do. There's no doubt. You're still working on this. I think, to me, I don't think you have to get too much into this race and worry about this. I think next week is going to be a real telltale sign of the progress they have made, because now they've come off of Las Vegas. You're going back to a 1.5 mile racetrack. I mean, how fast the Toyotas have been on the 1.5 mile, how fast Toyota was last year in a 1.5 mile. I know Chase Elliott won the fall, but let's be honest, that was a Toyota win that they should have had. I think next week. You've got Texas upcoming, and then you've got Charlotte. This stretch of races is really going to be more indicative of where they're at than what happens at a concrete 1/2 mile racetrack that is so different than anything else.
Yeah. By the way, I thought it was pretty funny that Denny on Action Detrimental last week was like, how did Chase Elliott win Kansas? Like, I don't even remember that. Like, he could not. I was like, he's joking. And then he wasn't joking. He blanked on it, and he's like, oh wait, yeah,
that
was great.
Just why don't you call Bubba Wallace and ask him?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Anyway, Reddick finished 4th today, and that was he really salvaged the day, because he got that speeding penalty early, and he's able to come back up through. Now he loses some off his points lead because he wasn't getting stage points and all that stuff, but Ryan Blaney's within 62 points now. But Reddick at least minimized the damage, as they say. So that was key for him. I mean, and they had a fast car. All the 2311 cars were fast. I mean, Herbst ended up not finishing well with his, but he was up there for a while. He got stage points. Mm-hmm. Bubba should have had a top 10 today. He finished 11th, but just the Toyotas in general and the 2311 cars and the Gibbs cars. But Reddick ends up being the one to carry the banner again for 2311.
You talked to, Reddick has been very upfront about this. 2311 has been very upfront about this. Their short track program is probably their weakest part of their game right now. They weren't very confident going into Martinsville. They didn't have a lot of confidence going into here. And by and large, they got through it. Reddick still has a pretty good sizable points lead. Bubba, yes, had a bad Martinsville, but that was, that was his issue.
Self-inflicted, yeah.
Exactly. But I talked to Reddick about this yesterday, and it's like, now you look at the schedule, and really, you carry this through. All the races I just mentioned on 1.5 mile racetracks, right? And then you throw a Talladega in that mix, a Watkins Glen road course. And then after that, you've got Nashville, Michigan, Pocono. Those are all really, really good tracks traditionally, and really specifically recently for 2311. I'm confident we're going to continue to see them up there, and the hot start and the dominance that they have had is going to continue to happen. And Reddick is just going to continue to lead the point standings by a healthy margin and build on it. And I wouldn't be at all shocked if he or Bubba gets a win or two in the next few weeks, because I think this stretch of races sets up so well for them.
Well, we talked about Reddick being able to overcome the speeding penalty, but Christopher Bell could not overcome that. You know, he had one of the fastest cars. He gets all the way up to second place early in the race after, you know, I think starting outside the top 10. Looked really fast. I mean, it was going to be like, whoa, this guy, maybe he's going to win today. I mean, this is big. And then he gets that penalty, and it's like, okay, well, you know, they talk about, should we come in and make some adjustments to be in traffic here? No, let's stay out. And he's trying to go through traffic and, you know, makes a mistake, hits the wall, breaks a toe link, goes 4 laps down. Ultimately, he finishes 4 laps down, was never able to get those laps back, 27th. And when we talk, Jordan, about, hey, you know, like last year, okay, you know, you have a bad race, you throw it away, whatever, you go, oh, shoot, maybe we missed some playoff points, right? But now, okay, you're looking at the point standings. That's some real damage, some real lost points, stage points, finishing points. He slips to 9th in the standings and is 155 points out now, but he's also like 70 points out of a top 3 seed. And, you know, that just, man, like those are the kind of moments where when it gets back down to, you know, the chase seeding and all that stuff, it's going to be, you're going to be like ruining days like this, you know?
Yeah. And I don't think it's just a Christopher Bell thing. I think you look at his own teammate in-house too, Chase Briscoe, and like how much speed and performance they have had, both of those teams this year, but they haven't been able to maybe execute to the level that we're accustomed to them, or getting the results that they otherwise deserve because of mistakes, because things have happened of the like. And the 19 team and the 20 team have just left a lot of points on the table in general, you know, where they're going to look back and go, man, woulda, shoulda, coulda. This really kind of bit us here. And it's indicative. Now, Bell at least is comfortably, you know, in the 8th, 9th in points right now. I mean, look at like 8th, 9th, he's 9th in the standings.
Yeah.
You know, Briscoe is still fighting for a playoff spot. Like they are going to both look at the stretch, especially with as good as Toyota has been week in, week out. And on top of that, your biggest rival is still working through it right now. They're still trying to get their feet underneath them with this car. And so they really haven't been in the mix. They've been a lot of wasted opportunities. I think that both of these teams are going to look back on and go, man, this was costly, because at some point Hendrick is going to get going. I think we can agree, you know, and then it makes it even tougher. And I say this over and over again, and it's so true. When you have good race cars, when you have speed, you've got to capitalize. You've got to get the finishes. You've got to maximize your points days. And they just haven't done it for a lot of reasons.
Well, I mean, Chase Briscoe at least is now, he moved up 4 spots in the standings today. He's now only 1 point behind SVG for that final playoff spot. And it's amazing that SVG was able to hang on to that today after he spun out and he finished 34th. So that you would have thought that would have knocked him out of a playoff spot altogether, but he's down right on the cut line. And obviously those are the kind of moments, if you're SVG, and I know you picked him to make the playoffs, that you're really, those really cannot happen. You know, I mean, you just gotta, you know, at least take the top 25 days or whatever it's going to be, and then get your big points of the road courses. If you got to sort of punt, but yeah, you know, a day like this, that's really going to hurt ultimately, I would think.
It is. And I mean, it's just, if you're SVG, you've got to grind through it. And it's like Watkins Glen can't get here soon enough. And I don't think, I mean, look at Connor's Village too. I mean, it's like, you know, like they just need to get to a road course so bad, just to like get some momentum a little bit and start feeling good, especially Connor. And it's just what his season has been, and more issues today. And it's just, it's been hard luck over there, and it's been underperformance. And yeah, and if you're SVG, this is second week of the last 3 races where they've had an issue like this, and really hurt themselves. We talk about self-inflicted mistakes. This is another one. You can't do this because he's not in a position where he, you know, Chase Briscoe, I'm pretty confident, could run off a streak of, you know, top 5 finishes for a good, you know, good bit. SVG, let's be real, isn't going to do that. That's not how. And then that's where, when you have races like this, you just like, man, you can't keep having this happen.
So Briscoe finished 5th. Now the one right after that is probably the nice feel-good underdog story of the day, and that is Todd Gilliland. We mentioned that he took the 2 tires at one point and was up to fourth, and then really was able to hang on from that point on, and finished sixth. Now, he had only had one top 20 finish the entire season up till now. That was a 12th place finish. This was huge for him. This is his best career road course finish, or sorry, short track finish. I don't know why I said road course. Best career short track finish. And he moves up a couple spots in the points, still 26, but now he's in the ballpark where he's only, he's only 6 points away from already being up to 23rd. So as mired as he was, and really, I mean, he started 35th today and goes a lap down early, and you're just like, oh man, this is not going to be good. So for him to rally back, a good day for the Todd father.
Yeah, and a good way for the front row motorsports need this. Noah Gragson was running well today at times, and like this team has just had one stumble after another. The Todd Gillen and Noah Gragson and Zane Smith to some degree too, though he's been able to better finishes. But Todd especially, it's been bad. Like they've had issues on pit road, they've had issues on the racetrack, they haven't had speed at times. And there's questions about what is front row going to make changes at the end of the year in terms of a driver lineup and what that potentially could be. It's a bad time to be going through this and to go out and have a good day like this, really strong finish. And you've got to build on this though. Like it can't be a one-off thing. This is to be a building block to something bigger. Going to Talladega in a few weeks, that's a really good track for him. So there's potential there. Intermediates, we'll see what happens, but good. He needed this to hang your hat on that, but then build off of this.
Joey Logano only had, I think, like one top 10 finish in the next gen car at Bristol.
Yep.
Although he did win the Bristol dirt race, but
you miss Bristol Day?
I don't. And I saw a lot of people during the first half of this race today on X going, I can't believe that people, wanted to get rid of Bristol dirt for this. Oh my God. Oh, bring the Bristol dirt back. You're just like, dude, this is just another example of people just, I don't know what happens where, you're in the moment and you're like, yeah, no, this isn't good. And then you get like 2 years away from it and people are like, oh, we got to bring this. It's just like, again, I brought this up before, but it's just the same conversation as the tandem drafting. Everybody freaking hated the tandem drafting so much. It's like, you took away our pack racing at super speedways. Oh my gosh, this is the worst thing ever. So they're like, okay, we'll make sure we don't tandem anymore. And everybody's like, the tandems were pretty. Why didn't we bring out the tandems? Yeah, that's good.
They had a lot of lead changes. That was good. They gave all the jockeying and strategy. And you didn't know what was going to happen. Not bad. Bristol dirt, different, Jeff. Unique.
Bristol dirt. Oh my God.
Give NASCAR a dirt track schedule in the Cup Series. It differentiates Bristol. The two Bristol races. If you're trying to, cater, to an audience and get them to the racetrack, and they didn't want to go to the night race because it's come to Bristol dirt.
You know what? I will say this: if you want to take out the windshields and have a proper dirt race with the track conditions that would require, so like muddy it up, all that stuff to have like a real dirt race, then okay. But as long as you're going to have windshields where you can't prep the track correctly, so that the mud splatters all over the windshields and they can't see, then it's not a dirt. No, sorry. Anyway.
So if I started,
you almost got me to rap again about Bristol.
I was just going to say, can I get a Jeff Gluck rap, please? Like, bring back Bristol dirt, no windshields. I can't rap, so I'm not going to try. But like, just give me something. Come on with something creative.
Nothing's made me. People are like, well, aren't you going to rap? Like, nothing's made me as mad again. So
you need to embrace Bristol dirt. I think you're forgetting all of the good memories that was race
so good. Produced. Yeah, it was so lovely.
And the problem is, what the problem is you didn't actually get here and attend it in person. You didn't get to actually witness the greatness that was Bristol dirt because you weren't here in person to see it.
That would have made a difference for sure.
So you just sat at home in your mom's basement and fired off angry
My
tweets.
mom doesn't have a basement.
And you got so angry and you were critical, but yet you weren't here to actually see what it did and how it brought people together.
All your friends, that's who's texting you the good race, all your friends that you made at Bristol dirt.
Yeah.
That's your
community, Jeff. We may be small, but we're strong.
Well, Ryan Preece and RFK, they were pretty much outside the top 10 for most of the day, just, running 10th to 15th place. But Ryan Preece got his car a little bit better at the end and was able to finish 8th. Hamlin finished 9th. Hocevar finished 10th. And that was a day where, look, he got a top 10 out of it, but he was a top 5 car most of the day. He was running with the leaders all day. And I don't know what happened at the end, if they just faded or whatever. They weren't quite able to get the result that they needed. Now it's good in the sense that, like, hey, we saw last year where Hocevar would be running top 10 and, throw it away or something like that, or something would happen. So at least they get a top 10 here. And he moves up 2 spots in the points to 13th. But it could have been, even better for them. I mean, we're now used to just seeing the 77 car in the mix every week.
They're qualifying well, they're racing well. It's like you said, it stopped being a surprise and almost more of an expectation now, to where when they don't get that finish, you're like, oh, what happened here? They should have. That tells you everything about where this team is at. That they're, he's finishing 10th, and you're like, man, that should have been a top 5. Like that shows the growth of that team, Spire Motorsports, and then the driver Carson Hocevar, and where they're at. And to the point of, we Ty Gibbs was the guy, it was a debate, right? Who's going to get the first win, Carson or Ty? Ty checked that box. I think we all agree, like, Carson's going to win. I don't think it's that far down the road.
The last one that I just want to highlight in terms of the top 15 finishers today was AJ Allmendinger, because listen, I mean, look, Kaulig, they really have no business even running top 25 most weeks based on the lack of information they're getting. They're on their own. They don't have the RCR alliance anymore, although arguably, I don't know if you want an RCR alliance at this point, based on how RCR has been running. But they're going at it by themselves. And for Allmendinger to run top 15 all day, he's 20th in points after these first 8 races now. I just don't think you can applaud enough what they've been able to do so far based on the extra. I mean, I thought they were just going to be both so far out to lunch this year.
Write-offs. Yeah. AJ is one of the most unheralded, underrated drivers in the garage. Like, he is so good on so many different tracks. People just think he's like, oh, he's a short track. He's not a short or road course guy. He's not. He runs well at Martinsville. He runs well at Bristol. He runs well in intermediate. Like, he is a really, really good driver who just doesn't get to showcase it because he's not with that caliber of team. You put him in a top tier equipment, he's going to win races. He's that good of a driver. His career didn't go how it thought it was going to go. The Penske thing happened, but he has made the most of it. And to your point, he just continues to punch above his weight class time and time again. You go back a few years ago, he was sitting there in the playoff conversation. He had no business being in the playoff conversation. And he was. And it's just, we say this all the time. He's so talented. And it just, he's a very loyal guy to Kaulig. He likes it there. He's happy and everything. But at some point, you're like, man, like, AJ, you don't got a lot of years left, man. Just let's see you go join one of those teams for a year or two just to see what you can do, because it would be interesting to see how that transpires.
We did mention Bowman. Unfortunately, he finishes last today, continuing just the miserable stretch, even from before when he had the vertigo. Now, he came back and did a news conference yesterday. And one thing that was really interesting was, I think it was Bob Pockris had asked him, was he worried about his career? And he said when he got out of the car at Coda, he was thinking like that might've been it. And so I think it underscores how much he had to do in these 4 weeks to be able to get back and be able to get in a good enough place to even return, where you're worried like, oh my gosh, this might've been my career. I might not ever be able to come back from this. So cool of him, cool to see him get back. Unfortunate for him. Now it's still not completely.
It's done. It's done.
I believe. I just did it earlier. I think he would have to gain. I think it's 8.5 points a race on 16th right now, with 18 races to go. So you don't think that's possible whatsoever?
I'm not saying it's done. I mean, things can happen. This team can go on a heater. They have shown it before. They have stretches where they look lights out. But right now, where they're at, in 4 races this year, their best finish is 23rd. Their other 3 finishes are 40th, 36th, and 37th. Now, 3 of those were crash induced. But like, it's just this team is not there. They're to the point they would have to be lights out the rest of the way and not have any mistakes. There's still Talladega out there. There's still Atlanta. There's still a Daytona. You have to get through there unscathed. No, I mean, mathematically, sure. Yes, I guess it's possible. Realistically, no, it's not going to happen. In fact, if you want to put a wager on this, a gentleman's wager on this, I'm all in.
No. I'm not by any means saying it's going to happen, but I mean, like even, okay, let's say, so Briscoe's 1 point out of 16th right now. 16th is where I did the calculations. So you think Briscoe's going to get up there. Okay. So you say there's one. Now the next guy would be Suarez.
That's the one.
But he's only 15 more points up from where that is. So, okay, say he needs to gain 8.7 points a race or 9 points a race. So you don't think that Alex Bowman over 18 races can go gain an average of 9 points per race on Daniel Suarez?
It's not just Alex Bowman, though. It's also the guys between Alex Bowman and hoping one of those guys don't go on a heater and they start knocking it off, you know? So
I'm just saying, I think
like this is going to sound really disrespectful, and I do not mean this disrespectfully. What in Alex Bowman's body of work over the last 3 years or so indicates to you that for what would you say, 18 races? So over 18 races and their body of work over the last 3 years in that 48 team, what gives you any confidence to say that they could go do this?
Look, I think, you see them, if you can go get, hey, you got a top 5 here and some stage points. Hey, maybe you win a race.
Again,
that's 15 more points.
I get that. And they could win a race. That's fine. They could win a race, but you're going to have to be really, really good for 18 weeks. When have we realistically seen that from the 48 team? We haven't. They go on stretches, 5-6 weeks, sure. But that's about it. And then it goes the other direction. It is this pendulum swinging back and forth. And again, you're going to have to hope that in Austin Cindric, that our Ross Chastain, I'll even throw Kyle Busch in there. I mean, like you're going to have to hope some of these guys who also could go on heaters don't, because you're going to have to leapfrog them. And we talked about giving people shout outs. Let's give a shout out to Daniel Suarez. Just keeps knocking out really good finishes. 12th today. He and crew chief Ryan Sparks just knocking out, doing what they need to do, playing the point game, and credit to them of where they're at. But I don't see that for the 48. I wouldn't be shocked if they win a race at some point. That's what they do. But they're not to that level right now. And by the way, we were just got at the beginning, we sat there and talked about Hendrick Motorsports and how like Hendrick Motorsports isn't really clicking right now. And Toyota is really good on the intermediate track. There are all of these factors that have to like go in their favor. That's a lot that has to go right. And I just don't see that happening.
Well, there were certainly some Bowman fans in Bristol attending the race today who were excited to see their driver back, but I don't know how many people were there overall, Jordan. From TV, obviously, I was not there to see this in person, but, just from the shots that we saw, it didn't look like it was a particularly well-attended event. Now, Bristol probably has the biggest capacity or one of them remaining in NASCAR. I know they blocked off some seats and taken out rows and stuff like that. But so maybe it's one of those situations where it would say, hey, listen, if you take this same crowd, it would look massive at some of the other tracks we've seen this year where the crowds got praised. You were there. What was the crowd like? Can you give us a sense of were people there or not?
I'm not really good at all predicting crowds. But from people I talked to, it was bigger than what you would have had at Darlington and some other places this year, Martinsville. But because your point, it's so cavernous, it looks bad on TV because you're not going to have a way to cover that up. I don't know what the number was. I've heard various things. I just don't feel comfortable throwing out a number because I don't know. It didn't feel as full as it has in the past, but I've heard from people that said there was a good number of people here today. It's hard here. And this is this is a place, people at Bristol are going to hate me for saying this, but this is an example to me of a track that would be so good with just one date. Because if you just had the Bristol night race on the schedule, all of a sudden it becomes an even hotter ticket. We go to Bristol once a year. It's a big deal. Oh man, Bristol night race. It's a huge thing. And you could, we'll just throw, you could have 80,000 people here today. Like, I'm not saying there were, you could have 80,000 people here today. And that is still half full, thereabouts. What is it, 140-ish or whatever it is? So a little over half. It still would have looked empty because it's so big here. And so you're going to be really hard pressed to get that back. But if you can make this an event, and you only go to Bristol once a year, and you push people to that, look at Richmond, look at Michigan, look at Pocono as examples of what happens. I don't think that's a bad thing. I really don't.
Look, I think there's a case to be made for, with this car on short tracks. I mean, spring Martinsville, spring Bristol, it makes it tougher if they're not going to change the car. I think, we've seen, look, this we didn't even talk this whole episode. This was a short track package with 750 horsepower, and it still was just.
But it wasn't that horrible a race. It wasn't atrociously bad. It was fine. And if you compare it to,
you're not going to. This race though this is not going to sell tickets. This race to be like, oh my god, I got to get back to Bristol. You're going to ever
get that though is if you're going to have a Ryan Blaney, you're going to have two people crash on the last lap racing for the win. That's what people want to see, is those kind of moments. But you're not always going to have that. And if that's what you're going to hang your hat on, you're going to be hard. Good luck, because you can't have that every single week. You can't have that every time you come here, and that's the problem. So, that to me is why you have to make it more of a novelty and return the specialness to saying, hey, we're only going there once a year. Now this matters. And then because you're only going there once a year, it's like, oh man, this is cool. I'm looking forward to this. I got to wait 12 more months for this. I'm going to check this out. Otherwise I have to wait, a year for this.
Yeah, no. I mean, I just, this is one of those things where, Steve O'Donnell, NASCAR president, is going to be on Door Bumper Clear tomorrow. And I saw Freddie Kraft soliciting questions, and I'm very curious to see, what they ask him about. We hear O'Donnell talk a lot, but I never would have thought that he would go on DBC with all, as much as DBC has angered NASCAR over time. But, I think that'll be an interesting conversation. And it's just like, what do they do with this car? What is next with this car? Where do they go now? Because again, short tracks, we've just it's all been put on Goodyear. They've tried package stuff. They tried horsepower stuff. Between this and Martinsville, I don't know if I've seen a huge change. So what do you do now? If anything, or is it just how it is? It's just stuck with it. But,
and I'm going to defend Bristol to some degree, or defend this car a little bit. And this wasn't like this issue just popped up with attendance at some of these tracks just because of this car. This has been going on before the switch over to the next gen car.
Well, can I just say something really quick though?
Yeah,
with the old car, pre next gen, was spectacular at Bristol. If you look at the good race poll, 4 of the top 8 races ever in the poll history were Bristol races. And until that Kansas race, the closest finish ever that Larson won a couple years ago, that was just like the best intermediate next gen race. Bristol was, and that actually that year also Atlanta with the 3 wide finish. Before that, Bristol was 1, 2, 3 in the all-time good race poll numbers.
Sure.
And Kansas and Atlanta popped themselves in there, but it's still 3 of the top 5. And that was 2021 Bristol, 2020, 2018, 2019. So this car was right before the next gen. Really, really, really good at Bristol.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah. Okay.
I agree. The racing was better, but the racing was great, but the attendance was still an issue. You wrote a story in 2016 about it, so this, my point is attendance at races isn't a new issue, and you can't pin it exclusively on the car. There are bigger issues at play, whether that's pricing, whether it's travel. I mean, let's be honest, gas right now, I mean, traveling to races with the economy and the price of fuel and everything, hotel prices are ridiculous. I think it's criminal what hotels charge.
Hotel prices. Can we talk about that for a second?
It's criminal. Like I am a capitalist. I'm all for people making a buck, but it is a hotel is $140 should not be jacked up to for something just because of an event is in town. You want to raise it to $200 or something? Great. God bless. You're going to make some more money. But to raise it that much, it's stupid. And then on top of race tickets and everything else. And then, like I said, the fuel, it's expensive. It's damn expensive. And the hotels and what they do is it's awful.
I mean, we obviously book our own hotel rooms as the race fans do. We have a travel budget. And so we are trying to stay within our travel budget, right? And I would say, so Phoenix this spring was easily the most expensive Phoenix race I've ever looked for hotels for. In the entire, all the Phoenix races over 20 years that I've been going, and spring, it's always during spring training, but this was insane. Which other one recently was really, really bad? Daytona was actually pretty bad this year. Vegas was bad.
Vegas was bad. Yep. And I get it. Like Bristol is in the middle of nowhere. It's hard. There's limited. Talladega is not convenient. You got to drive 45 minutes to Birmingham. Some of these other races, Darlington, for example, I get it. But it doesn't give you a justification to astronomically skyrocket your rates to what it is. Like
San Diego, by the way, San Diego is really, really bad.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's, and I don't know the solution to this. And I've had a lot of conversations with people recently because this is a really hot button topic for me. And I think it's because attendance and everything. I think if you could figure out a pathway to make it more, I don't say affordable, but just you could streamline it where people have an economical way to actually get a decent hotel at a fair price, it would go a long way. And I don't know how you do that, but there's got to be something to do because you're not helping yourself. And in what I don't think the hotels realize is you're driving people away. So you're shooting up prices and people aren't going to pay it and they're not going to come and then they're going to stop coming. And then what? And now we're sitting here talking about, hey, Bristol maybe should only have one race. And guess what? Instead of having 2 race weekends in your town, you only get 1 because you're a moron and you jacked up your hotel rates.
I mean, one problem is, the teams are going to pay that no matter what, right? Because all the crew guys and all that stuff. So then, for everybody else, which it's always been that way. But man, I was talking to somebody this week. Dover is another one. I was talking to? Yeah, we were talking about this week.
We were booking. We're going there.
Yeah. I mean, we were just like, oh yeah, this is going to be
Watkins Glen.
That's right. Well, Watkins Glen is always really, really.
But that's my point. Like, right, I mean, and I get limited options, and I understand all that, but come on, like, seriously, there's got to be a better way.
Yeah. Anyway, rant over, I guess. But anything else you want to talk about from this week? I guess there's another court hearing coming up.
No,
right?
There is not. Actually, definitely incorrect. There's a lot of. I double checked on that. There's not a court hearing. I did want to mention something on that. There's some things from the weekend I did want to touch on real quick too, but court related. There's some filings this week. Spire was very adamant about they didn't share any information because Joe Gibbs Racing again has said, hey, we want to request subpoenas to get communication between Jeff Dickerson and team owners or executives or competition people at Trackhouse, Rick Ware Racing, and what was the other one? Haas. And Spire very adamantly says there are competitors. We're not sharing our competition secrets with them. And for the first time, I thought that this jumped out to me was there was a mention of Hendrick Motorsports and how Spire goes, we're in alliance with Hendrick Motorsports. We're not going to share all of our stuff with anyone else. And I just thought the name Hendrick Motorsports, it's kind of been circled around a little bit. And this is the first time we've seen it mentioned. And we mentioned it on the show earlier before. It's like it's the underlying thing here. You in one corner you've got one super team, and in the other corner you have Spire Motorsports, who is closely aligned with the other super team. And it just, I think that is some of the underlying issues here.
What else from the weekend jumped out at you?
You want to talk about the O'Reilly race?
Great finish, huh?
The last 15 laps were phenomenal. And
Yeah.
I thought that was the most impressive I've seen Connor Zilic win a race. And then like we've seen Connor dominate races and have the fastest race car and just go do Connor Zilic things. He didn't have the fastest race car last night. I know it was tough to pass. I get all that. But to hold off Kyle Larson with a car that wasn't the best on older tires, and all of those things like that at Bristol of all places, which is like Kyle Larson's playground, I thought that was really, really impressive. And as bad as things are right now going in the Cup Series, Connor was pretty candid afterwards. And I asked him about that. I'm like, what's this do for you? He's like, man, it helps my confidence. I needed this in the worst way. And I just thought that was a really good way. And then Brent Cruz, by the way, you're going to hear this name a lot. He is Toyota's top prospect. He is going to be that next driver, I really feel, that's going to come through and just blow up and be that guy that everybody's paying attention to. And I think you saw a glimmer of that the other night. So that was my big takeaway from the O'Reilly race.
Yeah, what I liked about was there's that moment when the three of them are racing together and going for the lead and trying to sort out who's going to go where and all this stuff. And I just thought, man, 10 years from now, Larson is still, late in his career, running really well. Brent Cruz is a star, Zilic is a star. And that was like sort of the first time we had seen those guys together, racing together. And I thought that was pretty neat. And obviously, Larson already knows Brent Cruz because Brent Cruz has done a lot of, dirt stuff as well and all that stuff. So, and then Brent Cruz and Zilic are really close friends. So, and have similar backgrounds with karting and all that stuff. So it was just cool, like to see all that crossover. I thought that was pretty neat as well. But, and yeah, a reminder also that like, oh yeah, Zilic is like pretty freaking good. Like it's not just, I think that was an important win for him. And then of course today, gets into trouble again. It was a weird incident that he had, by the way. Like I went from McDowell's in car and it was like, he was on the bottom and then just like snapped up and went straight across track into the wall. It was a weird one, but anyway, anything else?
That was everything on my list.
All right. Well, hopefully everybody had a good Easter break. Jordan obviously didn't take a break. He was at Rockingham.
Good.
And so we'll keep plugging away here. I'm at Kansas next week, and then we'll both see you guys at Talladega the week after that. So everybody, thanks as always for listening, and we will talk to you next time on The Teardown. See you, everybody.